morning, mathematicians. We are looking at our spiral review for week 19, the Wednesday column. We're starting off with a fraction times a fraction. We're asked to model this with a diagram. Boys and girls, remember what we've talked about in class. If we create a square, this square is representing one whole. Now I'm going to show one of my factors with vertical columns, and I'm going to show the other factor with horizontal rows. Let's start with showing. I'm going to switch my color so we can see this way our 1 out of 5. This means I'm going to break my whole into 5 columns because remember, boys and girls, our denominator, the 5, is telling us how many parts our whole is broken up into. I now see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns. The numerator, in this case 1, is telling us how many of those parts I have. I have 1 of 5 columns that I am showing with vertical division, with columns. Now, boys and girls, with rows, we are going to show 1/2. Our denominator of 2 tells us how many parts that whole is broken in. That whole is broken into 2 parts. And my numerator tells me I have 1 of those parts. So boys and girls, we are going to shade 1 of those 2 rows. My answer lies where I see overlap. This is the moment where I see the pink and the blue come together. So this is my answer. I know how much of the whole square this is by counting how many parts my whole is broken up into. My whole is broken into 10 parts. I have 5 parts here and 5 parts here. Together that gives me 10 parts. And one of those parts has the dual shading. So I know that 1/2 times 1/5 equals 1 over 10. Boys and girls, that is how we can model multiplying a fraction times a fraction. Let's come to the next problem where we're looking at partial quotients. My dividend is 485. Maybe I have 485 Hershey Kisses, and I'm going to put those into 15 Ziploc baggies to give out to my very favorite students. What I'm going to do is think about a friendly number here with maybe a basic fact with zero trick to start dividing up those Hershey Kisses. Well, if I had 3 groups of 15, that would be 45. 3 times 15 is 45. If I add a 0, now I have 30 times 15. So I would still have my 45, but now I'm going to add a 0 to it. Notice, boys and girls, we don't want our number to be too big. It can't be over this. But we also don't want it to be too low. We don't want to take just one group of 15 because then this problem would go on forever. It's like the story of Goldilocks. We want to find a good number, not too big and not too small. Now, when I look at this, I see that I have 35 left, right? 5 minus 0 is 5. 8 minus 5 is 3. 4 minus 4 is 0. So now I have 35 left. Well, 15 can go into 35 2 times. That's going to use up 30 of these Hershey Kisses. And now I have 5 remaining Hershey Kisses. That can't be divided equally into a group of 4. So I'm going to add these together. 30 plus 2 is 32. And I have a remainder of 5. Those 5 Hershey Kisses will get to the side, but each of my 15 bags has 32 Hershey Kisses in it. All right, boys and girls, let's come down to look at our multiplying whole numbers with an Aristotle model. You'll notice I've taken 624 and I've broken it into the expanded form. 600 times 20 times 4. Now I have 72, my other factor, and I've broken it into 70 and 2. So I'm going to look at my basic facts. Well, here I have 7 times 6. I know that that gives me 42. But then I look, how many zeros do I have outside that basic fact? Well, there's 3 extra zeros. Now I have 7 times 2 is 14. How many zeros are outside that basic fact? Well, there's 2. Now I have 7 times 4 is 28. How many extra zeros? Just 1. Now I'll come down to my second number, which is multiplying 624 times 2. Well, 2 times 6 is 12, and I have 2 zeros outside my basic fact. 2 times 2 is 4 with 1 0. 2 times 4 is 8. Boys and girls, I'm now going to join these groups together. These are some pretty big numbers. So remember in class, when we did some of these numbers in our head, sometimes we were prone to little error. It might be better for you to come to the side and simply add these numbers. When we do this, we want to make sure that we're keeping our columns very tidy and aligned. I have tons of zeros and an 8 joined together in the ones place. Here I have 8 plus 4 is going to give me a 12. I'm going to put my 2 here. I'm going to carry my 1. I have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 in this column. 2 plus 1 plus 1 is 4. And here I have a 4 sitting alone in the 10,000s place. So I know that I have 44,928 as my answer. Boys and girls, another way that I could do this would be to look at the fact 624 times 70 and do this in one fell swoop. Many of us in class, as we worked on this, we've been able to think about it as this number times 7 and just brought down our 0. Well, if I do it that way, and maybe I'll do it in pink to kind of separate it from the problem above. 7 times 4 is 28. Here's my 8, carrying my 2. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 2 is 16. 7 times 6 is 42, plus 1 is 43. And here, just for this part, I have 43,680 as my answer. Now, I can't forget down below that I also need to take 624 times 2, which I could do with repeat addition or multiplying by 2, whichever is your preference. I'm going to draw a line to show the separation between these problems. 4 times 2 is 8. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 6 is 12. And I have 1,248 in this area. Now, boys and girls, we need to add these together. Because I've kept it nice and aligned, I can add these right here. 8 plus 0 is 8. 8 plus 4 is 12. Here's my 2, carry my 1. Here I have 8 plus 1 is 9. 3 plus 1 is 4. And I have a 4 in the 10,000s place. So certainly, boys and girls, we see one way to solve it here and one way to solve it here. Both some arrive at the same answer. Now, boys and girls, the last part of our Wednesday column is looking at 33 times 25. Again, boys and girls, think about that basic fact with zero trick. 2 times 3 is 6, and I have 2 zeros outside my basic fact. 2 times 3 is 6 with 1 0. Here on the bottom, I'm going to start with 5 times 3 is 15 and 1 0, and 5 times 3 is 15. Now, boys and girls, because these numbers are so much smaller, I might not have to add them all together like this. Sometimes I like to look at this and add them by the row. 600 plus 60 is 660, just like that. 150 plus 15 is 165. If you know that you can add those efficiently and accurately in your brain, feel free to show it that way. Otherwise, of course, we could put our 4 addings together in a nice tidy column, and we could add it that way as well. Now we'll have 0 plus 5 is 5. 6 plus 6 is 12. 1 plus 6 plus 1 is 8. And my answer here is 825.